Welcome aboard, everyone. My name is Simon, and we are the Whales of Wall Street. Today's quick update on Polkadot, that is DOT on the exchange, DOT. Not many updates here from Polkadot in terms of news aspects, but a couple of things I do want to bring to your attention. So this is a big educational piece, left, right, and centre through Polkadot in the last sort of few weeks, and something they emphasize a lot, of course, around the parachain elements. And I'll go into this particular section here in a moment's time. But yeah, those that don't know about the parachains, that's very much trying to link many chains together, so that their kind of vision really in the future is that the internet won't just be one object, it will be a multitude of chains. And of course, to do that, you need to relay and cooperate blockchains across the board to basically take us to the next level, beyond Web 3.0 essentially. So trying to achieve that common goal. And of course, their partnership recently with Kasuma, KSM, has pushed that boundary even further. And of course, using that relay method, things like Moon River, those great projects that are available via that kind of partnership. So just have a take a look on the Polkadot Twitter account. There's loads of really cool educational pieces, and even opening up to people who want to learn as well, which I think is really fantastic. So perhaps encouraging the next wave of coders and developers, etc., to push to this narrative and next step. But this is quite funny. So this is Arrington XRP Capital. So they've done a nice League of Parachains Polkadot off the back of a League of Nations narrative here. So definitely check this out. I've had a few bits, I've read a few pages out, but it's very interesting to see the application of what these guys perceive Polkadot to be doing, how good it is for obviously the crypto space, blockchain space, and everything like this. So it's brand new. I think it just launched literally today. So I've got a few pages in, and I'll definitely be reading the rest of it. There's not too many pages left to go, but definitely have a look. I think it's very interesting, and particularly if you don't know much about Polkadot and blockchain, etc. It doesn't go into gigantic finer detail, but it certainly goes into the aspects of layering and what Polkadot Kasuma are aiming to do, and that whole aspect I said at the beginning about trying to combine everything together, and they want to be the leaders of this. Okay, so it's really important. System. Polkadot is a phenomenal piece of kit, piece of blockchain technology, as is Kasuma, of course. But that this is a long-term hold for me. I've got mine in a few bits of staking here and there via my ledger, and it's not something I particularly am going to touch this year unless something major really happens. I've picked up most of my Polkadots around sort of $7 or $8, so it's going well so far on that aspect. But for me, I'm trying to accumulate perhaps for 2-3 years time, utilizing that staking opportunity. And by the way, for staking, most exchanges have the option to do staking with DOT, but like I said, you can do it via ledger, and you can actually pick your pools that you want to go into as well. So there's a bit more control on that aspect. Of course, still the same things to consider about risk and things like that, but in general, it's a cracking project. I wish I had more of it, but I have what I have, and many people out there, of course, have hundreds, some have thousands, and fair play to them for getting in early. Of course, there's many other opportunities and products out there that can potentially match that, but Polkadot is, of course, one of the absolute phenomenal ones. It goes a bit quiet, actually, in these column marks. Let's just go and open this chart. Before we do, if you find any of our videos informative, please make sure you press that like button, subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already, and press that bell button to make sure you get notified of all the videos we have coming your way. So now we've got that out of the way, let's go. So Polkadot essentially has had quite a good run, in my opinion, certainly since that sort of July time. In fact, let me just very quickly put a price percentage increase line up here just to give an indication. So 276% up since the 21st July. So that's taking us, for those that are listening rather than watching, 19th of July, around $10 all the way up to 37. Now, I didn't actually buy mine in this graph. It was more down this way. I think I can't remember where I actually got them originally from. I think it was Coinbase potentially, and then I moved them across. I have to remember how I did it. But essentially we are currently in sort of the middle point, or maybe just around approaching the middle point of this fifth arm. Okay, so we've hit the sort of 2, 3 stage, 4 stage, down was the dip, and then the 5. Now if we go around the fib retracement levels, which is a very generic, simple way to sort of estimate or give a good guess, essentially, of what the price might be for DOT, we are looking on here around $176. So, anything, in my opinion, between 150, 175 is going to be absolutely phenomenal. In the future, of course, this could be absolutely mental. It could go to those kind of prices that Ethereum have maybe in 3, 4, 5 years time. Absolutely powerhouse. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops. But of course, I think personally I'd probably be a bit stupid if I bought mine at like $7 or $8 and didn't sell them. I'm not trying to trade too many. I'm sure there's many of you out there that are trying to maybe trade back up and down to accumulate more that way. For me, I'm happy to storm the ride because I just feel so confident that I would at least take percentages, maybe up in the higher spectrum towards the $100, and then as we go beyond that, I'm not particularly ready to do that just yet, even with this great run that we've had. But everyone's strategy is different, right? So you guys out there might have different ones. We'll just go into a few other bits and pieces in this chart as well. So of course the previous all-time high, which we've drawn up here, which is currently around 49.78. I think that's slightly off, but it's very, very much near enough. And of course, what we can analyze here, we just mentioned the nice growth pattern that we've had since the 21st July. If you remember the previous video, we did put in a potential buy opportunity. I did actually hit that, I believe, just about yesterday on this small dip on the 16th, which brought it down to around $33. That's pretty much where we're trading around right now. We're actually around 32.81 currently as of time of recording. So of course, there's a bit of an interesting stage here. So you can just about see this yellow line here on 37.35 and this one here around 32.33. We drew this in previously because you remember we said that this area is critical to, if we can get some sideways movement, I truly believe we can move in a bullish momentum. Of course, what we don't want to do is trickle down and potentially break that barrier and get a close under here, because then we will probably come back down to this retracement level of around $30. And, we don't want that to continue. So the MACD is quite interesting because it's kind of like switched over slightly. So I have a bit of caution in my mind in the sense that the buy-ins are fading off. I don't know if you can see. Let me try and change that a bit just so we can see what we're talking about. So on this histogram down here, the buy-in is very much cooling off slightly. So it indicates to me that we may have a small switch over and potentially drop back down to this kind of 30 line, or certainly around maybe to the 32 to test this area before we bounce back up. So I reckon in the next 48 hours or so is really important to understand where we're going. I'm not expecting a gigantic drop. I did put a buy order down here with one of my dots. So what I tend to do is I don't tend to trade everything up and down, but certainly I use like maybe one just for a laugh to test the model. It's not really for like my trading purposes, if that makes sense. So I kind of use it to test the method and for research purposes, really, to help you guys out. So if anything, I'm spending my money on you guys, which is great. So that's where I put my tester down. I do believe that this is a potential possibility, but I think we may have gone past those days because we had the support, we had the resistance barrier there before. We drove past that on the 31st of August and we stepped up. The Bitcoin nonsense day, or nonsense Bitcoin manipulation day, that's what I call it on here. We had that, it retraced quite well, kept us over this bottom line here, and we started tailing back up. So it'd be disappointing if we came down here, but I truly believe that if we are coming down as we are now, we're still within our funnel here that we drew in the last video. But I think that we could probably bounce off that 32 if it does come down, because I think there's a lot of volume in Polkadot at the moment, and a lot of momentum that can push it up, really resist that level. So let's see how it goes. But that's my anticipation, is that we potentially bounce off that or get very near it, and then we'll start seeing an upside, perhaps towards, not necessarily maybe this week, but maybe into the beginning of next week, we might see a bit more of a push forward. But like I said, just have a bit of caution because of this area here on the MACD and everything. showing a slight concern on that potential switch over. The RSI is also pointing slightly downwards as well. That's not to say that it's going to continue to go down, but you do tend to see us going back into this middle format before we might start pushing up again, because we haven't seen anything really over that 70 RSI mark since around the beginning of the month, and that's when we had the gradual increase here, which steadied off. In a nutshell, guys, I think Polkadot is quite funny because in the previous run early this year, there was so much talk about Chainlink, Link, and Polkadot, and video after video after video after video, and it's got a bit tiresome after a while. And of course, then it hit the top and it all jumped down. And to be honest, there's a handful of YouTubers out there that we love very much and who cover it, fortunately, but there's a lot that just jump in on the hype. So hopefully you appreciate that we are looking at things in both the good and the bad times, because I think it's really important to understand, but also take positivity from these kind of lower regions, albeit that we've had the rise. What I mean by this is we can anticipate both purchasing opportunities as well as selling. So as I mentioned with myself, my strategy is different to perhaps yours, but of course you want to be trying to take profits along the way if you're looking at short-term gains, or certainly gains from this run in particular with some of your individual or collective assets out there. And we try and put in the key areas here. For example, resistance here. If you were buying down here, of course, and you've had that gigantic percentage, of course you want to be looking at the RSI and things like that as well. But you might want to be like, for example, where we're looking at the price increase from the 20th July upwards, along that way, 260% is quite a gigantic drop height, So some people like to sort of take incremental values at various stages, like maybe taking initial investments out around 20-25%, and then they start taking them out at maybe the 50s, 100 incrementals, and so on and so forth. So there's loads of different ways you can look at it. Perhaps in the next video, what we'll do is once we get confirmation of this area here, we can then start, for those that have perhaps bought in here or around these regions, or even at the bottom and still haven't sold, we can give you an indication, obviously not financial advice, but just personal opinion of if that was us, what we would do. And I'll even put in the selling points that I'm going to put for my DOT as we get to the higher regions towards that sort of 70 to 100. So we can just anticipate in the near future, perhaps maybe the end of October into November, we might start seeing those kind of figures and, smashing through all-time high, hopefully by the middle of October. And then we'll still do that on the way back down, because when you get these expanded rises, there's always a correction, and it's usually between sort of 40 and 60%, so we'll put that in there as well. But we're still keeping this one in here, as I mentioned, around 2028, just in case. But I do anticipate that we'll bounce off this 32 and over the next few days start triggering back up to try and break that previous resistance level, first of all at 37, 35, and then our retracement would be that $40, $41. That's possible, guys, I reckon in the next week or so. Let's keep an eye on it. But guys, I hope you found this video informative. Please make sure, as I mentioned, to like this video if you found it interesting, and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and press the bell button for notifications. We'll leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.